Oh, new batteries. Woo, good. Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend C.C. Coltrane. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Dayton. If you're here for the very first time, a special welcome to you, and thank you for sharing your morning with us. On your bulletin cover, there's a little tear-off strip that you can provide us with your email address on. We won't do anything with it except send you a weekly pick-me-up that just says, hi, here's a spiritual thought for the day. And very occasionally notice about some upcoming event. We promise we won't sell it or give it to anybody else or abuse it. So if you fill that out, you can take it over to the Welcome Center at the end of the service or just put it in the offering basket when it comes around. Over at the Welcome Center, they also have some informational packets that will tell you more about us, and they can answer whatever questions you have. Our pulpit assistant this morning is Stephanie Stewart, and our vigil holder is Linza Smith. And our interfaith candle lighting will be done by Judy Nussmacher and Linda Andriaco. Because we honor and draw from the wisdom of all the world's religious and spiritual traditions, we do this interfaith candle lighting just to remind us of all of the sources of wisdom available to us. This morning, our little kids are with Teresa Napke. There she is. And our teens and tweens are with Jen Brust. There she is. We're going to sing a song to them first, and then the kids can find their facilitator for the day at the end of that song and head to the back. And thank you all, you beautiful children, for being here today.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Judaism. Do not be afraid, you will not be put to shame. Do not fear disgrace, you will not be humiliated. You will forget the shame of your youth and remember no more the reproach of your widowhood. The second candle is lit in honor of Christianity. If anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch on yourself, lest you too be tempted. Bear one another's burdens. The third candle is lit in the honor of Hinduism. Every aspect of existence has a purpose. Human meaning involves a fundamental sense of conscientious accountability. All individuals are considered part of the greater whole, which functions well only when each person fulfills his or her obligations. The fourth candle is lit in honor of Buddhism. If with a pure mind a person speaks or acts, happiness follows them like a never-departing shadow. The fifth candle is lit in the honor of Jainism. Right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct together is a real path to attain the karmic liberation of oneself. The sixth candle is lit in the honor of Native American traditions. Teach me to trust my heart, my mind, my intuition, the senses of my body, the blessings of my spirit, that I may enter into my sacred space and love beyond fear, and thus walk in balance with the passing of each glorious sun. The final candle is lit in the honor of Confucianism. Faced with what is right, to leave it undone shows a lack of courage.
Good morning. Today's reading comes from Ernest Holmes. The Spirit is an undivided and indivisible wholeness. It fills all time with its presence and all space with the activity of its thought. Everyone is an incarnation of God and a unique incarnation. All are rooted in the one life. Your endeavor then is not so much to find God as it is to realize God's presence and to understand that this presence is always with you. Nothing can be nearer to you than that which is the very essence of your being. Your outward search culminates in the greatest of all possible discoveries, finding God at the center of your own being. Life flows up from within you. So if y'all will take a moment with me to contemplate today's reading in silence. So anchored here now in this perfect moment, this holy moment of love, I recognize that love and life does indeed flow up from within each of us to manifest as this service today. I know that we are all here by divine appointment, and that everything that transpires is exactly as it should be, that we are each a unique expression of the one, that this service is a glorious celebration of that. And so I simply say thank you. Thank you to the One, thank you to the Spirit, and thank you to each and every one that expresses here today. And so it is.
Freedom is always our theme, right? Freedom is always our theme because that's all we really are after, is becoming as free as we can possibly be. But as we continue this year examining our shared values, which are all these words in the word cloud on the front of your bulletin cover, our value for June is accountability. Accountability is sort of like responsibility, but it's bigger because, as we take responsibility, then we decide internally to recognize that we're at choice. We're at choice. If you're a person like me, I'm at choice, and I have been for 30 some odd years, as to whether I pick up a drink of alcohol or not. If you're, thinking about how to speak to someone, you have the choice as to what your approach is going to be. If you're acting, you have the choice as to what action you're going to take. Accountability, I think, is bigger than that. It means that we recognize that our own integrity requires us to do what we say we're going to do and to act in accordance with our deepest beliefs and to live by what we say matters. It's the bringing in of integrity and responsibility into the same place, I think. The dictionary definition, you might say, well, duh. But the dictionary definition of accountability is to give an account of oneself. No, duh, really, yeah, duh, right? But when I started to think about that, I thought about it more and more, and you know, if we're accountable on our job, we're accountable to the person who is above us, our supervisor or our boss. To whom are we accountable in life? Some traditions tell us that we're accountable to God, who keeps ledgers of our behavior, or to St. Peter, whoever it is that's the gatekeeper, or to Jesus, or whomever. Our philosophy tells us that the place we have to give account is to the divine within us, to that spark of divine life within us. There's something that lives in there that is part of the one life that exists. It connects us with all that is. It's like conscience, but way bigger, because it's the real you and the real me. It seeks expression by means of us, and we humans are evolved enough to be aware of it. It exists in all things, but even there's a great, I think it's Buddhist, there's a great saying that, or maybe, no, it's probably Sufi. I began in the stones and evolved to the vegetable, and then became an animal, and now I am ever closer to becoming one with God. It goes something like that. Life evolves and consciousness evolves, and we stand at this place where we're conscious of that which is within us. So we have to account for our lives, for what we do here on earth, to our real selves, to the God of our own being is what I like to call it. And when I say God, I'm talking about the God of your understanding. It isn't God as a big human in the sky, nor is it simply the energy that flows through the universe. The God of my understanding is the relationship I have with all of that, and the remembering that I'm one with every other part of it, that you are me and I am you, and that I'm connected to all life everywhere. So we have to account for our lives to that which is within us. When we get in touch with that realness within, we start to know this. And when we know it, we realize it's not a little thing, it's the only big thing there is. It's the only big thing there is. It's really the only thing that matters. Once we become accountable to our real selves, then everything else is sort of automatically brought into line. Last week I used what Jesus said to his disciples, and I'm going to use it again because it flows through the whole way I think about life and God. And it also flows through all the world's spiritual traditions in one way or another. And, you know, God said to his disciples, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else shall be given to you." It's truth. It's truth. When we become conscious of the kingdom of heaven, which Jesus told us isn't out there somewhere, it's right here, everything else starts to come into line. So the question for me becomes, what do I want to be held accountable for? What do I want my account to be? I'll tell you what I don't want it to be. I don't want to be held accountable for a no-account life. You know what I mean? I want to continually live and grow and expand and learn and experience deeply as much of this wild and precious life as possible. The Buddhists would say, I want to live with right view and right thinking and right speech and right action. You know, right view means I matter, but so does everybody else. And right thinking means my mind is aligned with that highest spiritual ideal that I hold dear. And right speech means what I say is kind and true and helpful. And right action means I mix all that with a good dose of wisdom before I take action. I try and figure out what it is, because the acting sometimes is really hard. You know, they give you those hard problems in college logic classes, like, okay, you could save either the baby or the old man. Which one are you going to choose and why? That's wisdom. That's the development of wisdom. So I think the foundation of all of those things is, the one line in the song I heard was courage. You know, we only become free by finding courage, the courage to do the right thing. We have to first of all have the courage to find out what's going on in our own minds. Where am I not hewing to the highest ideal, highest spiritual ideal that is precious to me? What's going on in my own mind? And then we have to have the courage to pay attention to how what's in our minds comes out. How does it come out in what I say? How does it come out in what I do? How does it come out? How does it align with that high spiritual ideal? My value, my highest value. And ultimately, somebody synthesized that down to the courage to do the right thing. We've seen some extreme examples lately. There was one just last week on a commuter train in Portland, where a really sick and rage-filled man started to attack two teenage girls because they were Muslim. And the obscenities and shouting started to ramp up, and 3 men intervened. They surrounded the guy and they tried to get him off the train. They tried to get him to stop what he was doing, but suddenly he pulled a knife and stabbed at all 3 men, and one of them, whose name was Ricky John Best, died almost immediately. Another is healing, he survived. The other one was taken by ambulance to a hospital, where he died later as well, and his name was Taliesin Namkai Meche. And his last words were, "Tell everyone on this train that I love them." That's courage and integrity of the highest order. I would say he gave a very good account for his one life. All of these men shared values of acceptance and respect and love for other people. And when those values were grossly violated, they stood up. They stood up for what they believed in. The price was too large, but they didn't stop to worry about that. They stepped in according to their values. The man who survived is a young student, and he's still speaking and acting in accordance with his values. He says, "Don't call me a hero, and don't send me money, and don't lionize me, because we've missed the real victims here." The real victims were these girls, teenage girls, who for no reason other than one was wearing a hijab, were attacked on public transit. He's still talking about that, bringing our attention back to the underlying problem, which is intolerance, lack of acceptance and respect. Now, most of us, I surely hope, will never find ourselves in a situation like that. I really hope none of us does. But I've thought about this situation a lot this week, holding my own conduct up to my highest spiritual values, wondering what I would do. What would I do in a situation like that? Maybe I would take the advice that I've seen in several articles and approach the girls instead and try and edge them to the back of the car rather than confronting someone who's deranged. What I hope very much is that I'd have the courage not to kind of sneak to the back of the car by myself and hide so that the trouble couldn't touch me. I hope I would have the courage to do something to stand up for what my own values are, to do something to diffuse the situation or remove the girls from danger. I would hope I would remember that everyone is as important as I am, and that I am the place God shows up here on earth. I do know that I'm more likely to be able to find that courage when I need it if I practice keeping myself in right relationship with the world, with God, with all of these things we're talking about. If I can practice by, the first thing for me is to stop every day and remember that Cece, the human being, is only part of the equation. Cece, the expression of the divine, is the far greater part of this equation. It's the far larger and more powerful part of who I am and what I am. Because then I can remember that the kingdom of heaven is within me. And I can draw on it, and those other things are then supplied to me. I can remember that they're there already, including courage. And if I practice remembering that every day, it's there when I need it, when I have to draw on it quickly. And the second part for me is to know the human Cece well enough to know all of her beautiful and crazy emotional ups and downs. Fear, little tiny fear, not fear like these people were facing, but little tiny fear, the kind of fear that we experience all the time. Fear of looking odd, fear of being judged, fear of being thought weird, fear of all sorts of things. Those little tiny fears have stopped me in my tracks in the past. They've stopped me in my tracks and taken me to a reaction space rather than a responding space. But the more I know about myself and how those emotional things rise and fall in me, the more I can see those emotional hijacks for exactly what they are. They're emotional reactions that come and then go. They arise because of things that happened way long ago, or maybe never happened at all. And that if I can stay in a place of remembering the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven within me, then I can still respond from love rather than reacting from that emotional craziness. It's just a feeling, and it comes and it goes. I can respond from my soul rather than reacting from my feelings. I think this self-awareness is the foundation of spiritual self-confidence and courage. I think that when we're aware of all of who we are, then we can, kind of ask the merely human to get in the back seat and give the driver's seat to the larger part of us, that divine self that's in each one of us. Put them in charge. And when we know what trips are triggers, we can sort of just know that they're tripped and still do the right thing. We can know that they're tripped, take a breath, and respond instead of reacting. That really makes it easier, I think, to live up to our own values and to be able to give a good account of ourselves to ourselves. And I think the third thing for me is to practice with the little things, so that when the big things come, I'm ready. I have to practice with, one of my favorites is to practice while I'm driving, because it's very hard for me. I'm always getting all up in somebody else's business because they're going too slow, or they're not paying attention to the lane lines, or there's something or other. There's always something I can find to get mad about, right?
Yes.
So I practice saying, oh, look, a feeling. How can I love this person? How can I think positive thoughts? How can I just send them good wishes while I'm driving? It still means I have to see what comes up first, which is not loving and not kind. But then I have to practice thinking something loving until I feel calm again. So, one of my favorite teaching slogans is, when the going gets rough, turn to wonder. And the wonder is, I wonder what's making them drive this way. I wonder what their problem is. I wonder if I could help them by sending them a little kindness. Maybe they're really having a bad day. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try and send a little love their way. And so we practice, and we practice right speech and right action in the same way. You know, sometimes it means that I'll take note that I've just said something that's not kind or not honest or not helpful, and I have to go back and do it again. When I'm helping someone, but I really would be rather reading my book, I have to practice with that, not kind of being a spoiled brat about it. When I'm cranky and tired and my husband asks me to do something, you know, I have all these opportunities to practice and practice and practice, simply really asking myself if I'm living according to my highest values or not. Or am I slacking off? Am I being a brat? Have I forgotten that I'm connected, that we're one with each other? Have I forgotten those things? And I think wherever and whenever we're looking for change in our lives, expansion, the key is, again, to respond from the very highest values we have. Whatever and wherever we're seeking to grow, we respond and be guided by the highest values we have. In other words, every single day of our lives, we want to look to those highest values and see how are we comporting ourselves with them. Because if you look at them, compassion, integrity, love, accountability, creativity, safety, evolution, transformation, all of those great things. There's financial health. Who wouldn't want to be guided by those things, right? One of the men who was killed, the one I spoke of, Taliesin, was described by a friend in an article that I read yesterday, and he said he was the kind of person you couldn't say enough nice things about. He had nothing but smiles and kind words for everyone, and his mind was sharp and witty, at once playful and analytic. Last week he protected vulnerable people with a compassionate heart that refused to stay silent in the face of hatred. He did the right thing, the brave thing, and for that he lost his life. Taliesin is and will forever be a hero and a role model. He did exactly what all of us would hope to do in his place, an act that required tremendous courage and compassion. And I think the other two men are the same kind of people, loving and kind and compassionate and holding themselves accountable to their highest values. I think we all want to be that way. And we recognize it takes courage, and so we build that courage a little bit at a time, simply by remembering who we really are. Who is the deepest self? Who is the deepest part of me? What is the deepest part of me? And then by practicing in all that we think and say and do, humbly remembering the whole time that we are the place that heaven makes itself manifest on earth. If heaven is going to exist here, it comes by means of us. That this human self is the conduit by which the divine is made known in our world. And we sort of hollow out that conduit by taking away the junk, the things that block us from remembering who we are. And we support, in this spiritual community at least, we support each other in doing that, in getting rid of the junk and clearing up the blockages, in finding out more about that real self that lives at the center of each one of us. And it's that work of hollowing out that grows our courage. It's that work of hollowing out as we practice knowing ourselves better, understanding our emotional reactions, and moderating how we let those emotional reactions affect what we think and say and do. And holding ourselves accountable to that which is at our core, our courage begins to grow. And so we practice. We practice every day. We practice every word, every thought, every act. And as we practice, we become more and more proficient at finding the courage, at doing the right thing, and at being all that we came here to be. And there is no higher account that anyone could possibly give of themselves. So let's pause for a moment and just come together in consciousness as we remember that there is only one life. It goes by a million names. Some call it God, some call it spirit, some call it universe, some call it consciousness, some call it all that is. But there is only one. We all partake of it, participate in it. It expresses itself by means of each of us. It is that which breathes our breath and beats our hearts. It is also that which holds planets in their orbits and constellations in their places in the universe. It is all life, all expression. It is all there is. And it lives also as a spark of life within each one of us. And when we remember that and tune into it, we realize that it is that little flame that unites us with all that is, that together we are one infinite universal flame, that we are like waves on the great ocean of the one. We rise up individualized, but all we are is ocean. There's no part of us that's not salty and cool and watery. And as we remember that, I speak my word for each one of us, knowing that we let that highest value, that set of high spiritual ideals be uppermost in our minds. And as we move through our days, we simply say, how can I let those values, how can I let the idea of bringing heaven to earth guide all that I think and say and do? How can I respond with love instead of reacting with fear? How can I courageously show up to do the right thing for myself and others rather than sneaking away to a place I think is safe? How can I account for my life and myself to the God of my own being in a way that pleases me to my soul? And what I know about us is we find the answers. We say yes to doing all of that. We lean in to what we know. We allow that high spiritual ideal to express itself by means of us, to show up in the world in more and more beautiful ways, the ways that only we can bring, because of our unique, amazing manifestation of God. And knowing that this is the truth of this community and that there is no place where God is not being made manifest, and that we choose to make it manifest in the most beautiful way possible today and tomorrow and the day after. I give thanks. I give thanks for this time we have had together this morning. I give thanks for each person who is here. I give thanks for the light that each carries into the world. And in deep gratitude, I just let go. I know that the universe has already said yes. And so I just let it be. And we say together, and so it is. If our ushers will come forward, please. We now have an opportunity to supply the lifeblood of this community through our gifts. This place that helps us discover who we are, what our source is, and the joy of supporting one another in spiritual community. You know, our lives are changed here as we wake up to who we really are and why we're really here. And so your gifts and offerings make all that possible. So thank you very much. So if you give like me electronically, take your offering in your heart. Otherwise, take your offering in your hands. And know with me, please. I am joyful. I am free. I am grateful. I give with gratitude. And I say yes to all the good life has to offer. And so it is. So today we have the boy band, right? I love it.
I take offense to that.
That boy plays on Tarzan.
Oh dear. I have a couple of quick announcements and then we will get out of here. The first one is we still have a couple of spots left in our Sacred Circles home groups. So if you fill out an application today and leave it over at the Welcome Center for me, I will make sure you get into one of these amazing groups. They're a safe place to get to know yourself and what goes on in your own mind, and a safe place to grow, a supportive place to grow your courage and to receive care from people and care for each other, develop connection and belonging. So I invite you to grab one of those applications on the table, fill it out, leave it for me over at the Welcome Center. If you're new or new-ish, I invite you to hang around next Sunday after service, the 11th of June, about noon o'clock. We will have Rap with the Rev. We'll share some food and talk about our spiritual journeys, and what I'm really interested in is what you would like to find, what you would like to receive from the center and its community. Everyone's welcome to come. It's a special invitation to those who are relatively new. I think there's a couple of openings left also for the Tour de Young's bicycle ride on June 17th. Come and join us. It's $20 and you get breakfast. It's a fundraiser, so you can call the office during the week if you want to sign up for that. I think it's going to be a really fun ride. We have some old friends here, Wayne and Teresa Ramsey, and they have a nonpartisan petition to find a new way, a sane way, dare I say, to district for congressional elections. It's a petition that's circulating throughout the state, so if you'd like to sign it, raise your hands over there. You can talk with Wayne or Teresa after the service and sign that petition. It's a big ballot drive, or big drive to get that issue on the ballot in November, right?
We can only work with Montgomery.
Oh, only if you're in Montgomery County. If you're a Greene County person like me, I will have a petition next week for us to sign. On the last page of your bulletin is a calendar about upcoming events. So take a look at that to see what else is coming up. There's always something happening around here. And if you'd like prayer after service, please ask any of the women with the white or teal shawls on. Their gift to you on Sundays is called a 1-minute miracle. And it's simply an opportunity for you to, sometimes we can't see that high spiritual truth for ourselves in the situation because we're stuck down in the circumstances, and that's their gift to you. They're very good at it. So they will be happy to bless you with a 1-minute miracle of prayer. You can also put a written prayer request in the prayer box back by the door and we'll pick it up after service. But please take advantage of the practitioners and their availability to you on Sundays. Okay, everybody, for the first 3 minutes after service, don't talk to someone you know well. Go and find somebody you don't know well and strike up a conversation with them. And don't forget, at least 10 hugs before you leave, okay? At least 10. We need that many just to make it through the week, right? I do, anyway. Thanks to everybody who made this morning possible. The boys in the band, yay. Our ushers and greeters, our welcome team, the people with the kids, people with the youth in the back, the practitioners, and all of you. Thank you very much. Let's stand for our closing affirmation and our closing song, Ricky Byers Beckwith's I Release and I Let Go. I know that I am the place.
I know that I am the place
where the divine shows up.
where the divine shows up.
All the courage I need.
All the courage I need.
All the wisdom I need.
All the wisdom I need.
All the love I need
All the love I need
is right there.
is right there.
I draw from it
I draw from it
and I choose to do the right thing.
and I choose to do the right thing.
And so it is.